See, most founders, they build their entire audience on LinkedIn and think that's enough. See, LinkedIn is powerful for visibility, but you're building on a platform you don't control. The algorithm decides who sees your content and when, right? You can't predict it, you can't control it. And LinkedIn might change the algorithm tomorrow and the next month again. So you're building on rented land, and the landlord can change the rules anytime they want. A newsletter, however, adds a layer you actually own. So there's no algorithm deciding who sees what, and there's no platform risk. When you have something to share, you send an email and it goes directly to your audience. Every single person on your list gets it. No algorithm filtering it, no reach problems, no platform changes affecting, whether people see it or not. You own that list, you own that relationship, and you own that distribution. That's the fundamental difference between just working on LinkedIn and using LinkedIn to fuel your newsletter email list. So when I work with founders, we usually take the best LinkedIn content that performed really well and expand it into the newsletter. Now, LinkedIn has certain character limits. Even if you write a long post, people are scrolling quickly and they're not reading deeply. The newsletter has no character limits and people are in their inbox when they're more focused. So a post that was, let's say, 300 words on LinkedIn becomes 800 possibly on the newsletter if it's relevant. So we can go deeper, we can add more context, we can include more tactical details. We can share insights that don't just fit in a LinkedIn post, or people might just scroll past it. So the newsletter becomes the place where we go beyond surface level content and actually teach something substantial or share something substantial as well. I think the cadence that works perfectly is bi-weekly. That's the sweet spot where you stay top of mind without being annoying. Now the question is, how do we grow this list in the first place? The best route to kind of grow this list is through lead magnets, but these aren't like typical things that you see on LinkedIn where people are sharing their screens and all of that. This could be literally templates, guides, frameworks, possible assessments, and resources that people actually want, and they're willing to share their email to access it, right? That's highly relevant to them. When you're posting all of these different formats through your content, someone sees the value, they subscribe, and now they're on your list. So the lead magnet does two things at once. It gives them immediate value so they feel good about subscribing, and it qualifies them because if they're willing to download, let's say, a framework, they're interested in that particular topic. Another quick pro tip I like to use is I like to reference the newsletter in the LinkedIn post where, let's say, that topic aligns naturally with the newsletter for the week. That just drives traffic to the newsletter sign up page without being too pushy about it. Now, we're not constantly promoting the newsletter in every post. We're just mentioning it if and when it's relevant. So over time, the list grows and you're building an audience that's actually yours. And here's what's different about newsletter subscribers versus just your LinkedIn followers. Every subscriber opted in. They did not just click your profile because your post showed up on their feed. They gave you their email address, which is a much higher level of commitment than just simply following you on LinkedIn. The email addresses are personal. People don't give them out unless they trust you and they think you're going to deliver value. So when someone subscribes to your newsletter, they're literally saying, I trust you enough to let you in my inbox. That's a completely different relationship than a LinkedIn follower. This expectation, it creates accountability and it creates consistency. You're not hoping the algorithm shows your content to them. You're delivering that exact messaging, directly to their inbox on a predictable schedule. And here's what happens over time as your newsletter list grows. You build leverage that compounds. When you launch something, let's say a service, a product, a workshop, possibly a cohort, you just don't need to hope LinkedIn surfaces it to the right people. You email it to your list directly. Let's say if you have 1,000 subscribers and you email them about a new offer, 1,000 people see it, not 200 because the algorithm filtered it out. The exact 1,000 people, that's the reach you control with a newsletter. And here's the other thing that happens. Your newsletter becomes a relationship building tool, not just a broadcasting tool. Because when someone's been reading your newsletter every 2 weeks for, let's say, a couple of months, they feel like they know you. They've consumed, let's say, 12 editions of your insights, your stories, your frameworks. That's 12 individual touch points that build familiarity and trust. So when there's a point where they reach out or you reach out to them, they're not a stranger or you're not a stranger to them. They've been consuming your newsletter for months and they feel connected to you. That connection actually shortens the sales cycles because the trust is already there. So LinkedIn, it builds visibility, and the newsletter, it builds ownership. And together they just create a system where you're not dependent on one platform for all your reach. So LinkedIn gets people to discover you, the newsletter keeps them engaged, and you're building an asset that compounds over time.